My name is Brian Breitholtz. I'm your alumni director, and it's wonderful to have you all with us this morning. This is our coffee talk, part of our series that connects alumni, faculty, staff with our deans in a very informal way. So this is designed for the deans to give an update on the colleges and then to provide opportunities for you to ask questions that you might not normally have such access to our university leaders. Today we have Meredith Bond, who is Dean of our College of Sciences and Health Professions, which many of you may know and some might not, is the largest college at Cleveland State with 3,700 plus active students, 200 faculty and staff, and 20,000 Cleveland State alumni. The college offers 40 undergraduate bachelor's programs, 25 graduate programs, and 5 doctoral programs. Dean Bond has served as the dean since 2011. Prior, she was the chair of the Department of Physiology in the School of Medicine at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and a staff researcher in the Department of Molecular Cardiology at the Cleveland Clinic's Lerner Research Institute. She holds a number of leadership roles related to increasing minority and women's representation in the STEM fields. So I am honored this morning to welcome, and I'm going to ask for us to give a round of virtual applause to Meredith Bond.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. I know a number of you. It's great to see your faces. Jody, I know we've spoken on the phone. I haven't seen you for ages, so great to see you. Andy I wanted to give a shout out, is chair of our college visiting committee. And Frangos is here, has been a great friend of our college. And I wanted to give a shout out for Anne's recent award by Tri-C. She's on the Tri-C board, but for the award this year of Smart Women in Business. So that's great. Anyway, well, without further ado, since we're a small group, I thought we could be sort of informal. And I wanted to, what Brian said is, it's always been my passion to support those people who are underrepresented in STEM, in women, minorities, so that the sort of style of the presentation, I'm going to give you a brief presentation, 15 minutes, informal. You should feel free to jump in the middle, ask questions after, with the college our size and with all of the things going on, it's hard to, I could keep you here for 4 or 5 hours. So I'm not going to do that to you. So Brian's nodding. So I'm going to pick and choose. So if you'll, I think I've got about a 50-minute short presentation and just with some recent highlights, which we're very proud about. And then I would love to have conversations with you. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen. And so again, I should say, most of you know this, and Brian gave a nice introduction to the college. He did say we're the biggest. I'd like to make a small correction to that, Brian. We are the biggest and the best. So again, what have we been doing? And I wanted to talk a little bit about our pipeline that we've been developing for success of our students. And our pipeline goes all the way back to some students through the Math Corps program in 7th and 8th grade, all the way through to students we're supporting getting into medical school, getting into dental school, and getting into PhD programs. So I presented it as a pipeline of success. So here we go. If you can, I'm gonna just put okay, there we go. Preparing our students for success. I'm gonna just briefly, and I can certainly add more information afterwards if you've got questions, talk a little bit about our successful Math Corps program, move on to Operation STEM and LSAM, which is a program for students to get them calculus ready to start STEM courses at Cleveland State and in our college. Our McNair program from the Department of Education, which is a way to support undergraduates, first generation, from various backgrounds underrepresented in the STEM workforce, to prepare those students for a graduate degree, frequently a PhD degree, to help them to move into biomedical research. And lastly, at least on this pipeline, we have a very new program that we just received funds from the National Institutes of Health, again, to support predominantly underrepresented students, particularly minority students in the science and technology field. So let's kick that off with, in a minute, with the Math Core program. I know that a number of people, I know Anne maybe is somewhat familiar with this too. Math Core has been an amazing program. We are sort of an offshoot of the mother program that's been going 20 to 25 years at Wayne State. It's so effective that it is now nationwide. There's probably half a dozen Math Core programs to support students, students who are middle school students who are coached by high school students and college students, basically to prepare them for success in math. Well, this year was really different. They had an enormous success with math scores, pre and post Math Core math scores during this 6-week summer program. So what on earth were they going to be able to do with virtual Math Core? So this is one screenshot of this summer's Math Core program. And I'm going to share through the folks at the alumni office two short, great videos. One about Math Core, which will give you a little more in-depth appreciation of what a great program it is. And the other one about Operation STEM. So you can say, wow, how do you keep all these kids engaged virtually on their computers for all this time? And the goal is really to help them be successful in math, to give them a great grounding for moving forward. So you can say, well, maybe virtually this is going to be a bit of a challenge. Well, let me just show you the scores from this summer's Math Core program. This past summer, we took pre and post scores for Math Core. For the 7th graders, 8th graders, and 9th graders, about 50 students, and then additional high school and college students. So take a look at this. This is for the 7th graders, their scores went from 54 to 80%. The 8th graders, 42% to 82%. And the 9th graders, 34% to 75%. These are predominantly students from the Cleveland Municipal School District. We are now at a point, this was supported by the National Science Foundation. We're planning to submit another grant to NSF. We're also working with our colleagues at Wayne State to make sure that we can find the resources to support this program again next summer. So don't be surprised if you hear from me. All right. Again, let's move on to those students who have decided to have applied to Cleveland State. They're in their summer, just before starting their freshman year, and they're a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of their algebra and calculus readiness. So we have 2 programs, Operation STEM and LSAMP, which is the Lewis-Stokes Alliances for Minority Participation. Both of these have been funded by the NSF and the NIH. And I don't know, before I move on to the next slide, there are 2 individuals who I think might have been planning to join us, Susan Carver and Juan Amador. I just wanted to give them a shout out because they are the individuals who have made this program so successful. So here we are with a special 4-week summer program for students, predominantly minority students, so that they are ready and calculus ready. Because once you get into a series of courses for STEM, there's no waiting, there's no lagging behind. You've got to move on step by step to be ready for your biology or your chemistry or your engineering or your physics degree. So again, Operation STEM and LSAMP, big program that we've been having every summer. We have STEM peer teachers who are upperclassmen, math majors, physics majors, engineering majors, who work with the students, who all of these students here are about to embark on their freshman year at Cleveland State. There's a great deal of fantastic outcomes from the program. In particular, the gap that we were seeing in pass rates between minority and non-minority students was actually eliminated in pre-calculus through the STEM peer teachers and Operation STEM. And I'll just give you one other quick example. I could, again, give you many, many examples, but if we take a look at college algebra pass rates, before the days of Operation STEM, which was up until 2002, and then post-Operation STEM, I think you get a pretty good idea that of just one parameter showing how successful this program has been. Overall, since Operation STEM started, there's been over 2,000 students who have benefited. And it's an amazing program. I'm going to, again, share a short video that at your leisure after the talk, or at some point you can take a look at it, because it's impressive, I have to say. I did want to give also a shout out to Anne Frangos, who has been a great supporter of Operation STEM. So that's where we are with that. Now, let's move on to students who are already at Cleveland State, but again, academically may not be super well prepared, but really would like to get into a STEM field, and don't know, and probably may not have anybody in the family who has received a PhD or a master's degree. The McNair program is one that funded by the Department of Education. We have Angel Reyes, who is the director of the McNair program. This program, by providing 2 faculty mentors for each student, summer research opportunities, and when we could travel, opportunities to present their research at McNair and other conferences around the country. So again, this is a program that for this year's cohort, there were 31 students, or last year's cohort who graduated, 70% of them went on to go on to get into graduate programs. And here's just an example. You can get an idea that there's a lot more, there's some fun involved as well as studying and research for the McNair program. You can also just type in, go to the CSU webpage and type in McNair, and you'll get some other examples. You'll see the students, you'll see some of their activities. So yet one more link in that chain to support our students. We've now gone all the way through to targeting CMSD students in middle school. Now we're up to our students who are STEM majors and eager to get into graduate programs. Along this chain, this pipeline, most recently, in fact, just 3 months ago, we were fortunate to receive from the National Institutes of Health, together with the Cleveland Clinic, a training grant specifically for doctoral students. It is the first training grant of this nature for training doctoral students specifically from underrepresented backgrounds. There's no other one like this in the greater Cleveland area, and very few across the country. So here was just the press release. Some of you might have seen this, that again, what a great partnership with the Lerner Research Institute. I think one of the things that we probably underplay is the fact that we are such great partners in so many different ways with the clinic, together with Case and university hospitals. Here's a great example of collaboration with all of the research going on at the clinic, as well as amongst our researchers in our college. So this one, and each year we provide full tuition, full stipend, contribute to health insurance of a cohort of students. The first year is 3 students. We're going to move up to 5 students per year over the 5 years of this grant. And we certainly hope to continue it beyond 5 years with renewal. So I'm actually very pleased to introduce our first cohort of students. All of them are in doctoral programs. Abigail is in the chemistry department. Richard is working in biology. And Hala is both in mechanical engineering together with our physical therapy program. So there's an interesting collaboration right there. I should say also, before I introduce the next slide, that Abigail and Richard, I mentioned working in research labs. The research labs they're working in are the labs for our Center for Gene Regulation and Health and Disease, which is perhaps an underappreciated, fantastic NIH-funded group of investigators, students, over 100 students, undergraduates, graduate students, who get the opportunity to do research in world-class NIH-funded laboratories. So far, there's a total of over between about $4.5 million of NIH funding amongst the faculty of GRID. And just to give you a benchmark, that is more than the total NIH funding in the genetics department at the University of Cincinnati, or in the cell biology department in the Medical College of Wisconsin. So it's perhaps a well-kept secret, but it's also something that we're very proud of, and we look forward to growing even further. So with that, I will perhaps, be happy to just, continue the conversation, answer any questions you might have, and love to hear from you too, because I'm always interested. It's a two-way street. I want to hear from you. Please share your questions. Anything else that?
Let me ask Jordan, in terms of questions, there's the option also to write those in. I forgot to mention that, correct?
You can use the chat feature, or you can simply unmute yourself and ask.
Okay, or unmute yourself. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you, Meredith. That was very helpful. And something you mentioned in terms of the GRID group not receiving the attention, I'm not sure the verbiage you used, but I remember early on during my time, Debbie Day took me over there to see the setup and meet some of the faculty members and learn what they were doing, and really is quite incredible. That is a well-kept secret that we need to unsecret, because it really is amazing. And what you shared with the math core and the other prep programs, that was incredible as well. So I don't have a question as much as to say, we need to figure out a way on our end to share that more loudly and broadly, because those results are absolutely incredible. So congratulations to you and your faculty and staff for what you've been doing.
It's a team effort, and I'm so proud of all the people who I have the honor to work with, both internally within the college, as well as friends on the on the so-called outside. I mean, a number of you are here today, and it's so important to be able to hear what you have to say and bounce ideas off, and some show off a little bit of some of the things that others in the college are doing. So we're so very proud of the folks in the college.
Let me ask one question. You did mention partnerships with Cleveland Clinic and alluded to university hospitals. I'm just amazed with the quality of healthcare that we have in Northeast Ohio. Partnerships. How do you envision that increasing in the future?
Okay. So what we have already, 3 of the PhD programs are joint with the Lerner Research Institute. That also means that there's collaborative research by our NIH-funded investigators within our Center for Gene Regulation and in laboratories at the clinic, at CASE and one of the things that, and I know the president is thinking about this a lot, the question is, how do we distinguish ourselves at Cleveland State? How are we different from the other four-year publics around us in Ohio or elsewhere? Well, one of the things people have said, well, surely in this environment, it's by distinguishing ourselves through our health and our biomedical research. But I think the best way we can do that is to sort of walk the walk. I envision, in response to your question, Brian, that there'll be more and more, we should encourage more and more collaborative research opportunities. We have complementary expertise here and at the clinic and at UH. So Cleveland the Northeast Ohio has the highest density of people working in the health or healthcare field than any other city in the United States. So I think we at Cleveland State should not try to do it alone, but just as you alluded to, Brian, we are in an ideal place to partner. And for heaven's sake, our partners are less than a mile down the road most of the time. We have no excuse whatsoever. So that would be my dream.
Okay. Yeah, I think the pieces are all there. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Harriet.
Yeah, I have a question, which is maybe a little off track, but I'm a great believer in early interventions. I was especially interested in the efforts with the high school students and the results. And clearly a number of those students apply to and probably attend Cleveland State. All right. Do we have any sense of what happens to the others? Because I would think that they would be enthused by this, maybe spurred on to do some things they hadn't planned to do.
Well, we do have several who've gone to Cleveland State, and we're keeping track better and better, but there's a number of the students are going to other universities, whether they're in Ohio or elsewhere in the country. What is good to see, some have gone to 2-year institutions, but a number have gone to 4-year institutions. And one of the things would be to somehow find ways to keep supporting and mentoring those students at their other institutions, because it's often, coming into a university environment, particularly now when so much is virtual, is so challenging for our students. So I don't have a complete data, but I have a sort of a subset of data that says these students, once they've been through the Math Corps program, they have built up their self-confidence. They go back and say to their friends in class and to their teachers, mathematics is fun.
Yeah.
And smiling, right? It's exactly.
Meredith, if I could pipe in here, I had the wonderful opportunity of spending some time a couple of summers ago, spending a day with the Math Corps students. And it is the most amazing thing, I got to tell you. And I'm so impressed with the results that you got on a virtual basis, because I think the energy in the room when I was there and the creative things and how all the students were so engaged was just amazing. And I got to say the faculty and the instructors, the volunteers who work with these junior high kids are just as enthusiastic. So, I mean, it's building this wonderful love for math, which is one of my loves. And it's just amazing. So kudos to you for figuring out how to do it on a virtual basis.
Meredith, just a question, when you talk about grid in our visiting committee, obviously that's always a topic for us, and the notion of whether it's a well-kept secret or not, how do we promote this more? And one of the things that you think about in today's environment with COVID is grid involved, or our science departments, our biology departments, are we involved in any way in research on COVID that gives us an opportunity to, I mean, not only to do good things, but to be known for doing good things?
I'm sorry, I'm muting myself occasionally because we have some people, our cleaners, got the vacuum cleaner in the background. So yell if you can't hear me. Well, Andy, I think there's, in our Center for Gene Regulation, Health and Disease, while they're working a lot in a range of areas, cardiovascular science, inflammation, cancer, caloric restriction, timelines for how do we respond to a range of different diseases. Several have also started to focus some of their work on COVID. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. These are three members of the Center for Gene Regulation. Basan Mazumdar's lab, they're trying to assess the impact of the SARS-CoV-2, which is the sort of scientific name for the virus itself. The impact, and you remember when you see pictures of the virus, it's got spikes. It's a ball with a lot of spikes on it. And it's the spikes that bind to a receptor on the surface of cells and to allow the virus particle to get inside. So the spike protein is the key to working to prevent virus infection. So Dr. Mazumdar's lab is assessing the impact of the spike protein on resolution of inflammation in lung cells. And why would he choose to do that? Because his NIH-funded research is already in the area of inflammation. So you can see how somebody in GRID can easily take that next jump to use their expertise, but to study something very timely. Dr. Bin Su is in the chemistry department. He's also in GRID. He works to try to look at and develop novel small molecule inhibitors. And in this case, he's looking for a small molecule inhibitor of SARS-CoV-2 to prevent propagation in the cell. So that's two. And then a third one, the director of GRID, Anton Komar, he's actually collaborating with people in the Food and Drug Administration, again, trying to analyze the DNA sequence of the virus particle and work out how we can do better, even a better vaccine design. And his other area is trying to understand at a molecular level how to prevent blood coagulation problems that a number of patients have. So again, that's his area of research. He understands thrombosis and coagulation. He understands the genetic code and how to modify it. So he's jumping right on top of the research he's already doing. In another area, in our School of Health Sciences, Violet Cox, she's trying to work on understanding issues with speech and language pathology in post-COVID patients. So if you think about it, people who've been on ventilators for a long period of time may have vocal cord and swallowing damage. And this is exactly the area that can be addressed by speech language pathologists. So yes, there's a big focus in GRID. There are a number of people in the psychology department who are also working with the community, helping to develop with those who are struggling mentally, with loneliness, with so many different things that have resulted from the COVID epidemic.
That's an impressive list, and it's, once again, we've talked about this in the past, but it certainly would be nice if there's a way to publicize or put more, be able to put more focus on those kinds of things publicly for the university and for our school.
Yes.
We do a lot of wonderful things, and sometimes not enough people know about them outside of the
Exactly.
University.
Yeah. Well, we are working with, we are working with our marketing department to do just that. But the reason, there's like two steps. We are looking to get increased financial support for GRID, also trying to develop a capital campaign, because GRID has been so successful. And for any of you who have two of the current GRID labs, you'll know what I mean. The space is old and desperately needs renovation, but the space is now too small. So we just hired 3 new assistant professors, NIH funded faculty, who have brought in an additional $2.6 million with their own NIH grants. But frankly, what we did is we sort of shoehorned them into a small lab. I think what allowed us to recruit them was the collegiality within GRID and the collaboration with the clinic and university hospital and case. So we could offer something beyond square footage. But we will need to, our dream is to build a new annex, wonderful new space. So, and the president is also very eager to expand GRID. So he's on board. But so our dream is to be able to continue to grow GRID so that people cannot ignore us anymore, that we are a highly competitive group of NIH funded investigators, not just known internationally, which ironically we are, but known locally down the street.
Great, that's great.
Yeah, I'll also add, the next issue of the Alumni Magazine has a feature focus is on COVID. So I think there's an opportunity here to also tie in something with what GRID is doing in that area. So we will talk about that and figure out how to make that possible.
Meredith?
Yes.
Yeah, you talking about Math Corps, and you said it was funded by the NSF.
Yes.
Any chance, do you know what program it's funded through by NSF?
Yes, if I can remember the abbreviations, it's AISL. If that's not correct, I'll follow up and I'll send Brian or Jordan. It's basically for programs developed within the community outside of the school setting.
Okay.
We're going back. This NSF funding is, I cannot emphasize how important our partnership is with the mothership, with the Math Corps at Wayne State. So we went in with Wayne State into this last NSF funding. And we are planning for another NSF grant application to go in January, February. I think with the similar program.
Okay. No, I work at the City University of New York, so this sounds very interesting. A few years ago, I got a grant for STEM for unmet financial need. That was pretty good. So.
Wow. Yeah. It's a program. There's probably about 8 Math Corps sites around the country, and I've just been meeting with some folk from Wayne State. They have set up a 501c3 foundation to support Math Corps nationally as well. So we're jumping on that bandwagon as well.
Meredith, for those who have not had the opportunity or the privilege to see Math Corps in operation, what about it makes it so successful?
Can you hear me, by the way? Okay, despite the background? Okay.
Yes.
I think it's in part, there's a couple of reasons, that the high school students who support and mentor, and Anne, of course, has seen this close up, as has Devi and others, when they mentor, they almost adopt the students from the middle school. So the high school students learn about mentoring. There's a 2 student to 1 high school student. So the students feel at home, they feel supported, they develop a partnership, then they move on. The students come back each year. So I think what is powerful, this isn't a one-off where a student might come in 7th grade, that's it. They come back. We now have a waiting list for Math Core because it's gained popularity and the students are going back into the schools. The one thing we would love to do is get even more CMSD schools involved. It's sometimes a little bit difficult to navigate one's way to the right people in the schools. Carol Phillips Bay, who has a lot of friends who are math professors in the schools, says, I'd love to get more kids for the school. We know this works. I think, Jordan, it's also a case, and when I share the video, you'll see this, it's all about, it's multifaceted. It's about building up respect, courtesy, self-confidence with their peers. So there's some non-math activities as well. There's some art classes they do. They used to play chess regularly. So it's a bonding that goes on. So the students feel empowered. I think that's what it comes down to.
How do you envision, I mean, just speaking broadly, what is one of the keys in building greater pipelines for underrepresented groups into these STEM fields?
I think it's a little bit like the marketing we need to do for GRID. We need to do an even better job highlighting these programs, but complementing that, we need to be able to, in order to grow them and sustain the programs, we need to be able to continue to get more funding, both federal funding, but also foundation and philanthropic support. It's great to get the students into the programs, but the programs right now, they are not hard funded. So in other words, we continue to seek funding each year for each of these programs. So my concern is, if you like, I want to see those programs be sustained year after year after year. But we find some anxiety, annual anxiety in a way, in order to be able to pull the programs off each year. The McNair program, we've applied and we've been successful getting refunded. But again, that has a finite lifetime and we will reapply for it again. So we're very well supported by federal programs, wonderful support that we've had, philanthropic support, but sometimes we're cobbling it together. So I think that a combination of getting the word out about our pipeline, after all, when you think about it, we are very different. That is so much a part of our mission at Cleveland State. We are an urban university, and our job and our role is to support the students and the population in the greater Cleveland area. And so this pipeline is so much in our wheelhouse. So the more we can do to drive it, to expand, to broaden the pipe, if you like, and maintain that continuity, the more we are serving the greater Cleveland community.
Dean Bond, in what ways do you work with the School of Nursing and the folks across the street in the new building?
Nursing students, of course, you know, we have a strong health theme in our college. So it's natural for us to be collaborative in some grant applications with nursing. What the nursing students, or pre-nursing, before they officially get into the nursing program, take a very large number of courses that we provide in the biology department. Anatomy and physiology, microbiology, There's a freshman chemistry course. So we help prepare those students with their foundational STEM courses, which is one of the major ways we work with the nursing college. In terms of what we're doing with the folks in the Center for, what is it? Center for Innovation in Medical Professions.
That's why I just said across the street. You caught me there.
There's a lot of work already within our School of Health Sciences, interprofessional education. And I know Joni, having been so involved with our PT program, can attest to that this is the way that healthcare and medicine is going. We are in the process of regrouping or revamping the program that we had with NeoMed, which was a program specifically to support students, primarily minority students, to get into medical school. I believe it's now more broad, that program. It's not linked to NeoMed, but its goals are the same. And we're looking for a new director of that program. And again, those students, are doing all of their coursework in our college. The program to support underrepresented students getting into medical school complements that bigger program we have in our college, which is the Office of Pre-Professional Health Programs, which is a bit of a mouthful. Brittany Wampler, who runs that program, was just highlighted in Cranes as one of this year's Cranes 40 under 40. This, just to give you a quick number, nationally, for people to get into medical school, the chances are about 40%. For the students who start with our Office of Pre-Professional Health Programs, from the first day in their freshman year, those students, on average, their success getting into medical school is close to 70%. So if I'm a student thinking that that's the direction I want to go, and I'm looking at universities around the state, where should I go? Where's my greatest success going to be? That's another number and another outcome we would love to advertise, jump up on the top of the building and put up a big banner, or maybe rent one of those planes that they put over the top when they're playing the baseball with a long banner. Maybe that's the way to go. But,
hey, Meredith, don't
yes.
forget about our billboards. We're glad to put anything on.
That's right. Well, and Anne and Lou have been very generous. If you've ever gone, it's the billboard that you down on the corner of East 14th and Carnegie that you've been so generous with. If you've had a chance, Anne and Lou have put some great free advertising for us down there. Gets many eyes see it. That's right.
Thank you, Anne.
Our pleasure. If anything else you want to put on, just send it to us and we'll get it up there.
We may just take you up on that. Yes. Thank you.
One other question that I think probably a number of people have, Meredith, is we read in the papers almost every day about the impact of COVID on universities. Mm-hmm. Enrollments are down, budgets are tough, programs are being curtailed or modified significantly. Can you talk a bit about sort of the things that are happening in the college? And when we think about our health professions, so many of those professions, physical therapy, occupational therapy, they're hands-on kinds of labs and stuff. So just what, could you speak to a little bit about that?
Let me just tell you a little bit about the numbers. So overall, we can see that the enrollment in our college and at the university is what we can call healthy, building on our health theme, I suppose. There are, for example, across the state and across the country, about 20% of four-year universities nationally have reported about greater than a 10% decline in enrollments as a result of COVID. We are down overall only about 2%. at Cleveland State. We've been working assiduously with the students to make sure that they understand they're going to get the best experience, feet on the ground or remotely. And we encourage students whenever possible to come to campus in a very safe environment. So first of all, we have a much better enrollment outcome than a number of other institutions. If you look at our college, where college is down overall about a 3.5% in headcount. But interestingly, if you look at number of students, number of undergraduates this fall as compared to fall 19, there's been virtually no change in the number of undergraduates. There's been a 5% decrease in the number of credit hours students are taking, which sort of makes sense when you think about everything else that's going on in students' lives, taking care of kids at home, ill relatives, all sorts of things. So in many respects, we've got a really solid, continuous enrollment of students, which I think particularly in our college. That said, it's not easy for the students. On the one hand, it's very tempting to go remote and to take classes by Zoom. At the other hand, it's very lonely for a number of students. The peer interaction is so important. So we do have, nonetheless, we've been very thoughtful. We have a number of classes that are on the ground, or that at least have what's called flex classes, some on the ground, and some sections of those classes remote. If you take an example of physical therapy, for example, all of the students work together, they are masked, they have shields. They do not normally, and Jody can jump in because she's got hands-on experience. Normally, for the physical therapy students, they would move around and interact with a number of different partners to get more experience with individuals of different sizes, body weight, different strength. That's minimized now. But nonetheless, our OT classes and our speech classes and our PT, those classes that require the face-to-face, we've managed to be able to do that very thoughtfully and carefully. Science labs as well. Those are face-to-face. We call it face-to-face, I guess, but on the ground. So we are managing, I think we're managing very well. I think clearly the students are coming to Cleveland State and are coming back. It's going to be, I suspect, life at a university is never going to be quite the same again. But I think we're going to learn, sometimes there's silver linings. I think there's a number of things we've discovered we can do much better remotely than we ever would have imagined. So it's a day-by-day struggle, but it's a good struggle because we have a great group of students, and the students deserve every amount of care that we can give them.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I was adding to that. I think the residential schools are the ones that are getting hit by the COVID.
Which
the
ones?
residential schools that have a lot of dorms.
Yes.
Like I'm in a vertical campus too, in the middle of New York City. So our enrollment's actually up.
Yep.
Because a lot of kids don't want to go to college. They don't want to leave town. They want to stay close to home.
Yes.
With all the uncertainty, So
there's something. I think there's you have something very much in common with CSU. We have about, as you know, about 12. Normally, about 12% of our students are residential here. What we have done is reduce the have only one student per room rather than two. And keeping a close eye on them, doing a number of spot tests as well. But I'm sure it's very similar where you are, Michael.
now we have no dorms here.
No dorms?
Yeah. That's when I went to school at Cleveland State, it was just Finn Tower.
And
then
yes.
when they had when they bought the Holiday Inn, that was a big deal because it
Uh-huh.
forms over there. Yeah, but
Famous Holiday Inn, that's no longer there. That's where
I
the
know, I
Well,
know,
Viking
Schwartz,
Hall.
Yeah.
yeah, Schwartz did a good job. You know, he linked him to health. He brought more
Yes, he
drawings,
did.
more of a campus community there. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, yeah.
So we did have a note, Meredith, about from Debbie Day, making sure that we shared the video. So we need to
Yeah.
figure out, maybe we send it to everyone following a link. We can
Yes.
do that so people could check
I
out
will
that.
do that. And I will be happy to send the slides too, if that's helpful.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be great.
So,
Meredith, what types of opportunities are there for alumni or friends to get involved?
mhm. Oh, I can, let me see, I could think of a number of different ways. Certainly anybody who is currently working in a health field, we're eager to find opportunities for mentoring, for shadowing. This is with our Office of Pre-Professional Health Programs. People who are willing to practice interviews with students, ready for their interview to get into a health profession program. Anybody who's be interested in speaking to one of our clubs or one of our organizations, student clubs, to let me know, and I can direct them to Brittany Wampler. I think also the other thing, we're always looking for more clinical education sites. When you think about all of the students who need to get that experience before they can graduate. So anybody who can say, I know of a great site that could take physical PT students or could take occupational therapy students. And honestly, what we really are looking for, our students are not students of means. Many of you know that. Many of you have been at Cleveland State. We have a very large number. We're very grateful for the generosity of so many donors who have set up scholarships and endowed scholarships. We would certainly welcome opportunities for people to, if they're willing to contribute to the established scholarships, and very happy to talk to those who would be interested in starting a new scholarship. These students are balancing, a balancing act financially, which I think several of us cannot even imagine.
That was a great question by a development officer. So thank you.
Throw that in.
Yeah.
Yes, good job, Sanjala.
I did also, didn't get I wanted to also give a shout out to Stephen Lake, who has been, I think, virtually a lifetime member of our college visiting committee, and has been a great resource, Stephen, because of all your experience in the schools and working with students. So thank you for attending, and thank you for everything you're doing to support us as well.
Thank you, Stephen. And as I wrap up, I just want to thank you very much, Dean Bond, for this great presentation, a lot of insights, and we will follow up with you because we think there's some great stories here that we can tell as well. So thank you. And I also want to thank you for the support you and Tony continue to invest in Cleveland State, supporting students year after year. So your actions are always consistent with what you're saying. So thank you for your leadership and your support of Cleveland State. Thank you all for being here with us today. And we want to go ahead and wish you all a wonderful rest of the day. Drink more coffee, have more conversations, and stay healthy. Bye, all. Thank you
all. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate your attention.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you. Okay.